Hi everybody, Ed Berger from the TackleDirect Pro Staff. Welcome back. Today we've got something really special for you. We have 2 stars on our informational video this morning. Larry Dahlberg is here and the new Stella. Larry, it is so cool to have you here at TackleDirect.
The pleasure's mine.
Yeah, really. And you brought with you this morning something that everybody's been talking about but nobody's seen yet. So let's chit-chat a little bit about the Stella. Well, better yet, let's go back a little bit and talk a little bit about the reels and why they built something like a Stella.
Well, that's exactly the right question. When you're dealing with really, really big fish over the years, what have we gone to? Great big heavy reel with a big strong aluminum frame, strong as possible. Why? When you start really pulling on stuff, something's got to give, something's got to bend. And if anything bends in the frame, then the gears do what they're not supposed to do, they grind.
Right.
Traditionally, this has been the only answer for pulling on really big fish. But because this thing has got a big heavy spool, you're not going to cast a lure with it.
Right.
Want to cast something light? What do we use? We use
Spinning reel.
spinning reels.
Right.
But unlike this, which is a simple mechanism like a boat winch, rotational direction one way, simply have to create a gear ratio. A spinning reel presents a completely unique set of engineering problems. Look at it as like your truck. This is connected to the engine.
Right.
The engine turns, and then it creates a force that runs it in the opposite direction. The wheel has to turn. Well, in order for that to happen, we've got this great big long lever here where there's a lot of torque. We've got leverage here, there's a lot of torque. And then we wrap the line around the spool, so there's torque in this direction. The movement in engineering on spinning reels has always been to try to get them to be lighter, so we use composites. Well, composites are usually fibrous materials that are made to flex and not break, which is great if you're building a bow and arrow, an airplane, or a fishing rod. But if you're trying to build a frame that doesn't move at all, you've got one good option, and that is aluminum.
Right. And if it's going to flex, I mean, you run into the same type of problems with any kind of machinery that would flex that's got gears in it.
Absolutely.
Disconnect.
Disconnect.
Right. Disconnect.
Pop. So what's happened with the Stella is that everything has been made heavier, everything has been made more solid so that that frame isn't going to move at all. Now the other aspect in any reel is gears.
Right.
You have the best frame in the world, but if you haven't got really good gears, it's not going to accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Well, what does Shimano know about gears?
Well, let's see.
Every Shimano bicycle you ever saw.
Shimano has spent the better part of the last century developing gear technology for bicycles and so on, and that isn't just metallurgy, it's the way they're cut. It's what they're coated with, what they're made out of, how they mesh together, what kind of bearing surfaces you have. They have taken the culmination of their gear technology and combined it with the best metallurgy to create a spinning reel that can now do things that spinning reels just couldn't do before.
Couldn't even think of doing it.
Couldn't even think of doing them. We're talking 600-pound tunas. If you're man enough for it, the reel is man enough for it. Well, let's look at some of the details here,
Okay.
the ones that impress me the most because they're the most interesting. Drag, always a big deal. If the rest of the reel can handle it, can the drag handle it?
Right.
Everyone has put a bolt into something and then tightened it on one end. Got it tight, 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 and then you go to the other end.
It's loose.
It's loose.
Yeah.
It's no different when you're tightening a drag. Most drags tighten this way and compress from the top. This drag has got a very unique feature in that when I tighten it here, it tightens equally.
So it compresses from both sides.
From both sides, and I'm not going to tell you exactly how they do that, but it does that. And the other thing, and this is perhaps when we're talking really, really big fish and really heavy drag, it takes about 1/20th of a fish's weight to move him in the water. In other words, if I had a 10 pounds of bass in the air, put him in the water, he weighs 8 ounces. A 1,000-pound fish is going to take 50 pounds to move him, even if he's sleeping dead in his airplane. That's a lot of pressure.
Right.
When you start getting up to the top end of these drag curves on any spinning reel, you get up to that 92, 95% point, things start to flatten, and you want to get just a little more drag out of it, and it goes, eep,
Right.
pop.
Right. Right.
Because there just isn't any cushion up at that top end. This reel has got a very unique, brilliant feature that involves a little spring that has a constant tension, even though the amount that is being compressed differs. In other words, I can compress it, and it still takes the same amount to compress it, but it'll never flatten out. So you get to that top 5%, and it just, and you don't get that skip.
You don't get that jerking, which is the thing that actually puts the fatal pressure on your terminal tackle.
Exactly right. So this has changed the game. Main gear, 38% thicker. The rotor, the housings, everything thicker, just doesn't bend. The other issue with this type of reel is migration of salt water into them. There's a completely different seal system. It's actually a triple seal. Reminds me of the way that you'd seal a propeller on a big boat.
Right.
No, it's not going to. Don't drop it down at 500 feet of water and bring it up and expect it to be okay. But with a triple system where we've got 3 lips and then a grease ring on the inside of it, the odds of salt water migrating into this thing are greatly, greatly reduced. I would put it this way, that in situations where you just didn't have enough strength or enough drag, or in some cases enough line capacity to chase what it was that you're after with relatively light tackle, this gives you that capability. It gives you that capability. If you're strong enough, the reel is strong enough.
And again, that gets all the way back to, the new generation of these spinning reels, because it used to be that the only type of reels that had the capacity that could handle the kind of fish would be, the big boys, the Tiagras, the 50s, the 80s, the 130s.
And actually, what's changed the game really on all of it, even these reels are coming down, is the fact that we're making line now that is of 100-pound line is now as the diameter what 20 used to be. So it just changes. It changes everything, and it presents a lot of unique engineering challenges. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And in this case, the weakest link is going to be the human.
Right, exactly. Well, in many cases, you're talking to the weakest link, so there you go. I know. Are you willing, are you up to the task? Are you up to the task of taking one of these Stellas out and really fighting a big tuna with it?
The combination of rigidity and super good gears combine to create higher efficiency. Shimano calls this X-Ship. X-Ship provides greater power transmission efficiency through the use of large precision-cut gears with increased bearing support, and that's critical. Increased power combined with rigid construction results in maximum pressure on the fish simply because it's more efficient. Bails are always a pain, but not on this reel. A super reliable bail system created by combining an SR one-piece bail, an SW barrier-coated big roller reinforced with diamond-like carbon, and a high-strength hard-plated bail arm. The new cold-forged aluminum handle has 35% increase in rigidity versus the previous Stellas, resulting in more power under heavy load.
If you have any questions about the new Stellas, our guys in the back, our product specialists, they're doing their homework right now to be able to answer your questions for you. We want to remind you also that you can shop 24/7 at TackleDirect.com, or if you happen to be in the Northeast, stop by our beautiful 25,000 square foot facility right here in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. Larry, it's a real pleasure to meet you. It really was.
It's a pleasure to meet you
I'm enjoying learning about the new reels, and I hope that you folks will take advantage of some of the new knowledge, grab a Stella, and we'll see you guys out on the water.